So in the past, I've always kind of recommended to people, don't do this, but I completely understand the appeal. Now you can kill every single monster in the entire game, and you don't need to have an Infinity or a Sunder Charm to do that. Well, pretty much every monster, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but that's what I'm bringing you right here today, the Frozen Orb Hydra Sorceress build. So for this dual spec Hydra Orb build, I'm going to go over early game build and end game build both in this video, so I'm going to kind of go quick, not talk about each individual piece of gear for a long time, but the stats page will go first, and it's going to be pretty much the exact same recommendation for both of them, so I'm just going to talk about this once. Just enough strength and dex to wear your gear, so you don't really need any extra points into dex usually, and the strength, depending on how godly your gear is, you got to put enough to get up to 156 at minimum, and that is to wear your Spirit Monarch, of course, and you dump the rest into Vitality. Now, resistance is down here, not great. This isn't the best endgame build, and I'm doing this right here, no Torch, no Annie, and actually no charms in the inventory at all. But sorceresses usually have other ways of staying safe. So now we're jumping into the skill tree for the budget version right here, and then I'm going to jump into the budget version gear, and then we'll go to the endgame version after that for the skill tree and the gear. So first of all, on lightning skills, pretty standard, 1 point of telekinesis, teleport, and static. All great skills to have, pretty normal. Over here on the fire skill tree, we got 1 point into warmth. It's fire bolt, fireball, enchant, and down to Hydras, because Hydra is one of our damage dealers. So we went ahead and capped that out at 20 hard points. And then we actually ended up with the remaining points, whatever, after we did everything else, put into fire mastery here. And this is only an 85 character, so this could get higher. You could easily cap this out if you were at, 95 or whatever. But this is where we ended up at with the level of the character that we're at right now. I realized that the synergies give you 3% over here in fire damage, but the fire mastery would give you, I believe, 7% fire skill damage per level. So that's why I put the points into that. I do also use enchant to just help out my mercenary a little bit. We have the 1 point wonder right there. Anyways, hopping over to the cold skill tree, we have frozen armor right here, just 1 point. And then we go ahead and we want to get our skill points down to using frozen orb. Now, I kind of thought and decided in my mind that this is going to be our main damage dealing attack. And then we use the fire from the Hydras in order to take out any of the cold immunes and just to have supplemental, a little extra damage. Obviously, it's kind of passively shooting at everything that you want to kill. So we maxed out Frozen Orb. We went ahead and maxed out its synergy up here, which is Ice Bolt, giving us 2% damage per level. And then over here on Cold Mastery, you can do this a few different ways, and this is why the skill tree is going to differ when you have endgame gear. Because right now we don't have a Sunder Charm, we don't have Infinity, nothing like that. So I went ahead and I wanted to get up around 100 minus 150. You can only minus a monster down to the maximum of minus 200. So if a monster's res is like 50, this is going to slam them all the way down. But if their resistance is capped out, if it's actually immune, you can't break that with the regular minus anyway. So I decided just to get this down to 150 right here. That's where I decided to settle on that. You definitely could, and I thought about doing this, 1 point wonder this, maybe come over and get some more of these synergies on the fire if you're going to be using the fire more often. It's up to you on that one, but this is where I decided to get to. For a lot of monsters, this is going to be spectacular to get to this right around 150 mark. And now we'll jump into the gear, and if I didn't mention it before, can't remember right now, but all this gear can be found from Act 1 of Hell difficulty or earlier. So there's not going to be any stuff that's super incredibly rare. Some of it is going to be a little tough to find. It kind of talking about the first one here, we have the Oculus. I do have an ist in it. You could easily not have an ist in it. That just gives you more magic find. So that's going to be a hard one to get, but we have this Oculus right here, 3 to Sorceress skills. We have FCR. We've got the all res, of course. More budget than this. Make yourself a Spirit Sword. Whoosh. SweetPhil editor just flew that in. That's going to be the best option before this. Super easy to get. You can get that like in Nightmare difficulty usually. Up here we have a Shaco. Obviously, a lot of people go with lower helms, or this is a big place where I'll throw on a 3 topaz helm to get magic find if I don't have a Shaco yet. Usually I use the 3 topaz helm all the way until I get the Shaco, to be perfectly honest. Jumping over the shield, pretty standard for any caster. The Spirit Monarch, not a lot we need to talk about there. Viper Magi, you can find this super early on. You can find it like in Nightmare even, and Arl's a clutch, easy spot to go ahead and find this. A stealth before this is going to be great as well. That's usually on the playthrough, and you usually use that all the way until you get Viper Magi or Enigma or something like that. Over on the gloves, Mage Fist, you could use Trangs if you did find those as well, but since we're using fire skills, might as well go with the 1 to fire skill here on the Mage Fist. Has regenerate mana on as well. The rings, we just have a couple of 10 FCR rings just to get us up to a breakpoint For everything that you're using on this build, you only need to get to 105 for the FCR breakpoint. So that's what we use right there. I actually have a caster belt right here. Might be a little unnecessary for the actual FCR, but it automatically comes with regen mana. It already comes with a little bit of mana, and really early on, you're not going to get a ton of great options on the belt spot until you get an Arachnus Mesh later on. So maybe this could get you to an earlier breakpoint. I believe there's one at 63. An FCR, a caster belt could get you there. Go ahead and look up the recipe. It's really just an Ithrun, an Amethyst, a Jewel, and a belt that looks like this that is magic. For the amulet, we just got a 2 to Sorceress skills, a few other things on there that help us out. It's just going to be the best possible. Maybe you get 2 or 3 to fire skills or to cold skills. This one's, or maybe just a 1 to Sorcerer skill. It depends what you could find there. Tallying of Beads, Talrashes, or a sick caster amulet. So best you can get up there at the amulet side. Nothing like super specific that you can get early on that's godly. And over on the boots here, we got Alders, a great option to make up for the fire res that is lacking on the Spirit Shield. On swap, I forgot to get one here, but get yourself a lower res wand. You can shop them from Akara. Really great to use on things like when you're moat tricking Mephisto to take him out even faster. So get yourself one of those. And then we went with a super standard budget mercenary here. Since this is the budget setup, we got an insight. This is just in a partisan. Obviously, better bases are going to be awesome to get. Up here, we have a Tal's Mask. You can find these super early on. You can make yourself a Bulwark. That's another great newer rune word on ladder and single player. Non-ladder, you can't make it yet, but put that over here. And we got a Treachery, just kind of a Garbo Treachery, really in a mesh armor, but the increased attack speed and the Fade proc, absolutely awesome. We went with the cold version here. Dealer's choice, depending on what you want. Maybe you might want to go with the Cure Prayer Mercenary with the Insight. It could be up to you to get rid of your poison and any curses that get on you, along with that faster life regen. Now, jumping into the endgame Hydra Orb Sorceress skill tree is just a little bit different. We got the same 1-point wonders here, Teleport, Telekinesis, and Static. Jumping over to the cold skills, obviously Frozen Arbor is a key 1-point wonder. And you go ahead and get your skill points down to Frozen Orb. But the way this differs, we go ahead and we actually only put 1 hard point into this right here, Cold Mastery. And that's because of, a spoiler alert for coming up in a minute, the Conviction Aura that we have on our Act 2 Mercenary. Also, as you get more and more and more plus skills, this minus res will go more and more and more and more. And you can definitely get more plus skills if you get any skillers or your Torch and Annie on this character as well, which I am also lacking. So this will be even more than that. And only having 1 hard point in here on an endgame build is the way you want to go. So I went ahead and actually capped out the Synergy Ice Bolt here for Frozen Orb. We're only capping out the Ice Bolt for its synergy purposes. Now jumping over to the fire skill tree, we have all of our remaining points now over here. We go 1, 1, 1, 1 down to Hydra. We cap out Hydra. We actually have enough points left over at just level 85 here to cap out Fire Mastery. And then we put the remaining points into one of the synergies for Hydra. And we go with Fireball right here. And now we'll take a look at how the gear will be set up on an endgame build. Some of it's the same and some of it's different. Now, I personally love the Oculus on most sorceresses, unless you're going with Nova or with Lightning. You could obviously go with Heart of the Oak. A lot of people like going that way, but I love Isted Oculus with the 80 Magic Find. If you're out there killing monsters trying to find better gear, why wouldn't you want better Magic Find? And I feel like it's not a huge sacrifice of a little bit of FCR and a little bit of all res. Up on the top, I go with the Shaco once again. You could go ahead and topaz that up for some more Magic Find right there. I would prefer that. Over here, once again, still the Spirit Monarch, just absolute go-to for all casters. Now, I actually throw the Enigma on sorceresses. I know that some people, it blows their minds, but you get the all skills. You go ahead and you could technically save 1 point into teleport. I kind of end up putting 1 point into that, just a preference, which I'll explain a little bit later, but a huge amount to strength, which every point you don't have to put into strength to wear your gear, you can put into vitality. And now the endgame mercenary, it's super standard of what you'd want on casters, though. We got the cold one still, and we've got infinity, we have Andar's Visage, and we have fortitude. If I didn't explain to why I only had 1 point into cold mastery, because we have the conviction over here, that is why. I don't remember the exact number on the top of my head, but I believe conviction at this level 12 minuses 70 to the enemy resistance. I think that's the number that it was. So if we had, we'll go ahead and take a look at the number. Minus 80 right here is just behind my hand here. So 80 and 70 is minus 150 already. So that's why I used the points and shifted them around on the endgame build for the skill tree, because we have the conviction aura over here. On top of that, just infinity with the crushing blow and the vitality and stuff is just great on a mercenary, even without the conviction aura. Up here we have Andar's Visage, increased attack speed. We have actually a crazy jewel, the expensive endgame jewel, 15 increase attack speed with 30 to fire res, eliminating the negative aspect on there, increasing the attack speed. And we have fortitude right here, increasing the damage, the resistance and stuff for the mercenary. So as we jump into the gameplay examples for the budget gear, I will mention usually you don't use Sunder Charms in this. Is kind of the point for going dual spec, and having 2 Sunder Charms for 2 different elements, it's going to be a huge negative effect for you. So as you can see, dealing with anything, no matter what the immunities are, you got the Hydras dealing the fire damage, you got the cold dealing the cold damage, the ice damage, obviously. Now here's where you kind of see a downside of dual speccing it like this. You can see that the fire damage isn't super high, so it's kind of taking a little bit to take out these ones that are immune to cold, because the frozen orb isn't going to do anything to them. I could static them down to speed it up a little bit, but kind of just wanted to show you the kill speed of the actual Hydra damage right here with the budget version. So while on players 1 here, you can take out everything, it's not the most efficient. As we take out Andariel here, I'm actually surprised at the speed. Now you notice the Hydras are only targeting her. She has a weakness to fire, and they're just blasting her. Luckily, there was nothing else distracting, but between the Hydras and the Frozen Orb, Andariel went down pretty quick. Disregard the black box. My daughter decided she wanted to walk into the video while I was recording, and I wasn't really thinking, but here I am, mode tricking Mephisto right here, just dropping the Hydras over there and just letting him attack away. Now, it was a little bit slow, I'm going to be honest, but you're not in really any danger mode tricking Mephisto in this way with the Hydras. And kind of funny enough, something I found, bam, a Ravenfrost on the example gameplay. Love it. Now, if you were strictly cold, here's something you could not do, and this is taking out Eldritch Shank. So I went ahead and just dropped some Hydras randomly up there, and they just start shooting, and they get all aggro, but they don't even come after you because they don't know where you are. So we drop the Hydras up there, and then my mercenary kind of holds them still. I go ahead and pull him back just safety-wise, drop some more of the Hydras down. But yeah, literally, if you're a cold build, usually you can't take these out at all. So this is one of the benefits, I suppose, to being a dual spec sorceress. A little bit harder here is Shank because he's surrounded by a bazillion cold immunes, but I just dropped all the Hydras right on top of him, and I went ahead and staticked them, and they luckily targeted him and took him out with no problem. And just for an example, hey, you want to go farm Thresh Socket or something, you can take him down without too much of a hassle at all. And then now with this endgame sorceress now, you'll notice everything going quite a bit faster. Right here, taking out Andariel with literally no issue, obviously. Moving on to Mephisto, I don't even moat trick. Static him down, drop the Hydras, shoot a couple orbs. Boy, look at that melt away, and he is donezo in no time. Even coming out to Eldritch Shank, throw down a few Hydras. They're immune to cold, so that's not going to do anything, but look at him just rip Eldritch right here, and then coming down to Shank, static the group down, drop some Hydras, and he actually rips like the whole group around him with the Hydras, and then eventually takes out Shank himself. So really just absolutely ripping. Now also, I did say this could do everything, right? So here we are going out after declone here to get our Annie. Here's my preferred spot. There's actually a little trick to it where you can actually go through the door, throw the Hydras through the door, and then you can kind of shoot through the door too, and he can't actually come after you and like attack you. So kind of interesting. I actually didn't really do this the most min-maxed way. I didn't even have a lower res wand on me or nothing, but you know, as you can see, I eventually did get him down. I don't even have prevent monster heal or open wounds or any of that stuff on this character either. So even without all that stuff, even with the handicap, could still take out declone. Now with this build, you're probably not going to be doing any Ubers. You're not going to be farming torches. That's why I said you can't necessarily do everything in the game, but you can even take out declone when they spawn.